Hi, welcome to Stitchity Doodle. I'm Gayle and I'm joined by my sidekick,
Miko.
Now, today's video is a second part to last week's video where I introduced many of my projects that I've been working on for the past 3 months, and I've still got a lot more to share with you, so I'm showing you more from my 3-month hiatus that I've been busy working on, so I hope you'll join us. This first doll comes from a designer that I love. I've made one of her patterns previously, and it's the unicorn doll. She's beautiful. I love the way that she came out, and she's a little bit more of a formal amigurumi pattern, I think, with her long flowy dress. But the pattern that I chose this time around is a little more simplistic and a little more of an everyday type of doll. And I chose the Autumn Bear doll by Joji Lee. And she has an Etsy shop, which is where I got the pattern from. Now, just before I started to record this video, I just popped in these jute ribbons for her hair ties. I'm not sure how I feel about it. Let me know down below in the comment section what you think about it. But all of my clips and pictures and things don't have this in, so you can kind of see the comparison. I love the yarn choices that I made for this doll. This dress is made with the Lion Brand jeans yarn, and I love that it has, I believe they call this a tonal yarn. It's not like a super solid color. It has kind of variations in the colors, so it gives it a lot more interest and texture to it, and I just love that. I also love working with it. It's nice, soft, and comfortable working with, so, and it has a little bit of a stretch, so it's not too hard on the hands. So I love working with that for my amigurumis, for the bodies as well as the clothing. I think it works really well for amigurumis. I love the way that it turned out. I love the way that it looks. However, when you turn it to the back side, you'll notice that the dress, because it only has 2 button closures, it doesn't quite cover up her backside. If I were to make this pattern again, what I would do is probably put in a 3rd button. Her pattern does not include any underwear. I noticed that I have a preference for underwear. So if I were to make this again, I think what I would do is make underwear for her, and that's just a matter of color changes. So together with the color change for the underwear and the button closures, I think I'd feel a little more comfortable with her coverage. So that's what I would do differently next time if I were to when I make this pattern again, because I do love this pattern. It's not very often that I make multiples of a pattern. Oftentimes I'll just make it once and then move on to different patterns. But my dolls, I notice I will tend to make over and over again, more likely than my animal type of patterns. This pattern is recommended for intermediate level amigurumis. And I believe that's because of the construction of the clothing. These are removable clothing. The her beanie is removable, and also her dress is removable. If you look at the beanie, it starts off with the brim, which is a ribbed brim, and then it continues on to the center of the beanie, and that's made in the round. So if you're not familiar with that type of construction, this will be a little bit of a learning curve for you. It's not hard, it's just a matter of getting used to it, and once you do it over and over again, it's easy. Just so you know, that's going to be something that you're going to have to be familiar with when working with this pattern. Also, with the clothing, you're going to have to learn a little bit of clothing construction. And the good thing about this is you'll learn a little bit more of clothing construction, but it's not at a large scale where you're making a full-size dress for yourself. It's miniature, it's for a doll. You'll need to learn or know how to incorporate sleeves into your dress. I believe those two contribute to the intermediate level. And then thirdly, the boots construction is not in the round per se, but it's more of in the oval. So it's in the round, but in an oval shape. So you start off with a chain, and you'll have to know how to work on both sides of the chain to give you that oval shape. for some beginners, that might be a little more challenging and difficult to do. But once you get the hang of working with that, it's pretty easy, I think. So if you're an absolute beginner but you're adventurous, this would be a great pattern for you to experiment with. But if you're an amigurumis and you've made several patterns and you want to stretch your skills, this is a great pattern because it gives you different opportunities to learn different things and expand your amigurumi skills. So I love this pattern. I love the way that she came out, and she's looking so super sweet and perfect for the upcoming autumn season. One more thing about the construction of her dress, it also uses the crab stitch, which is not exactly a beginner friendly stitch. And even for those of us who have done the crab stitch before, I noticed that there aren't too many people who are big fans of this stitch. It's not an easy stitch to work with. However, it is a beautiful stitch once you do master it. So for this reason, also I believe an intermediate level is appropriate for this pattern. But if you are really struggling with the crab stitch, it's okay to, omit that from your dress. You don't have to do it. It's just a really nice touch. For errors, I did find a typo error in the hair strands for strands 5, 6, 11, and 12. It's not a big deal. All you have to do is just decide for yourself as the maker how long you want your hair strands to be. And the error is just a matter of one stitch. So if you think about it, it's really negligible. So however long you decide your hair strands to be, it's not going to be noticeable. So it's no big deal. But just decide for yourself how long you want the strands to be and then stick to it. So for me personally, I decided to make my hair strands for 5, 6, 11, and 12 the same length as hair strands 3, 4, 9, and 10. No biggie. And it came out super beautiful. As for modifications, I pretty much followed the pattern to the T, with the exception of the beanie. I did make slight modifications just so that the beanie would fit my personal doll's head. You may have to do the same as well. Continuing on with amigurumi dolls, I wanted to try something new, and I stumbled across the Gracie amigurumi doll pattern, and that's written and designed by a crafty concept. Now, she has a blog where you can access the pattern for free. She also has a YouTube channel where I believe she has a tutorial on it. I was right. So she does have a tutorial here on YouTube. And then she also has an Etsy shop. So if you don't want to have to deal with a tutorial, or if you want to access a written pattern ad-free, you can also purchase it from her Etsy shop. So here is my Gracie doll. And what I love about it is that she is a true ragdoll, meaning to say that her construction is 2 panels that are flat and then you put them together and it's ragdoll style. I've made many ragdoll style amigurumi dolls before. However, those patterns have more of a round head. This Gracie doll is made, her head is also with the 2 panels and sewn together. So that's why I call her a true and through rag doll. Also, the construction of the way that she put the Gracie doll together, it's very reminiscent of cloth doll construction. So if you sew dolls, the construction of fabric dolls is very much similar to this doll here. I've only made one cloth doll before, but yeah, it was very reminiscent of that doll. I love it for that very reason, just because the construction of it, and then also not having to work in rounds and working in rows, and then the color changes. It gave me more practice for my color changes. I really enjoyed working on this Gracie doll. It was something different for me and I just thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but I love big bulbous heads. I love it for many of my amigurumi projects. I've done it before and I love it. I am attracted to big oversized head designs. Oh, and daddy long legs, just crazy proportion type stuff I love. However, I don't like shrunken heads. And when I look at this doll, for some reason, I'm thinking she's got a super tiny head for the size of her body. Now, I'm not sure if it's because of her dress and how it balloons out. I'm not sure if it's because I've gotten used to the idea of big bulbous heads being normal in my eyes. So if I were to make this doll, I would probably most likely experiment in making a larger head. I thought about why my head is small, because I did notice that my doll's head is smaller than what the head looks like in the designer's pictures. Hers looks a little more proportional. So then I thought, I wonder if it's because I personally use the yarn under technique whenever I use my single crochets. Also, I wondered if because I'm a tighter stitcher, maybe that also plays into things. And then maybe because of the way that I did my color changes, I tended to maybe pull on the yarn a little bit more. I don't know. I was just wondering. Those were just thoughts that were running through my head. I found this pattern to be easy to follow. If you're not a big fan of the magic circle, I would suggest that maybe you give this ragdoll a try, because you're not working in rounds, although you are working in rounds for the arms and the legs and the shoe and here. But the body of it, you're working in rows. I mean, if you're not a big fan of the magic circle, maybe consider giving this a try. While working with this pattern, I did not find any errors and I did not make any modifications. However, I would do the modifications that I mentioned earlier if I were to do this pattern again, which I'm sure I probably will because I really enjoyed working on it. I was going through my stash of donations that I have ready to donate to my local charity of choice, and to my surprise, I realized that I didn't have very many options for boys, which disappointed me. I didn't realize how many girl dolls and toys that I made. And so what I did was I went through my pattern books and my collection of digital patterns to see what I thought would be appropriate for boys. What I ended up deciding on was this Rudy doll by Marie-Lise Leal. I love the color choice that I chose for his skin tone. I used I Love This yarn in the colorway brown, and I love the dark rich brown skin tone. I think it turned out super beautiful. For this doll, I made quite a few modifications. When I saw the pattern, I was like, okay, that's the doll pattern that I'm gonna work with, but I want to make him a brown doll. So I changed up the skin color, of course, and then the hair I ended up doing differently. I gave him a little bit of an afro. So for his clothing, I decided not to give him the overalls that the pattern has. Instead, I omitted the bib and just gave him some shorts and a striped long sleeve. But for his shoes, well, I started off doing this with the intention of these are supposed to be his socks, and then shoes were supposed to go over it. But then when I looked at him, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give him some high tops. And I thought this would be great as far as high tops. So instead of continuing on with giving him shoes, I decided that the sock portion would be the actual shoes. And all I did was just stitch on these shoelaces, if you will, to give it the look of high tops. And I super love the way that it came out. I'm thrilled with the way that it came out. And then for his hair, although I didn't follow the pattern designer's instructions for the hair, I did my own thing basically. So for this hair, what I did was I started off with 6 chains, and then I worked back on the chain. I skipped the first stitch from the hook, and then I worked 5 single crochet. And then I repeated that pattern however many times that I needed bubbles, if you will, to cover up his head. It'll be a very long string of just these tiny little curly strands, and then I just glued it onto his head in a circular pattern to give him this hair look. I am super excited with the way that it came out. I glued it on with a glue gun and hot glue sticks, and so it's stuck on there really well. But I love the look that it came out to be. It looks like a bubble stitch, but it's really not. Because I used black safety eyes against the dark skin tone, it was kind of getting lost against the color of the skin. So I decided to add this little bit of white just to make the eyes pop. And I love the way that it came out. It looks so super adorable. I love it. Now, I don't normally add noses and mouths to my amigurumi dolls. And the reason why is because many of my patterns don't call for it. Or they might call for a nose and not a mouth, or they might call for a mouth and not a nose. I don't know why. I very rarely do I put both the nose and a mouth. But when I do, I always surprise myself at how much I love it. I think it looks very playful and it looks like a child's toy. And the funny thing is, I watch podcasters here on YouTube, and many of them are grandmothers. And so they have grandbabies, as they call them. And when they share their stories, they talk about how they make dolls and how their grandbabies ask, "Grandma, how come it doesn't have its nose? Where is its nose?" Or, on the other hand, "Where's the mouth? How come it doesn't have a mouth? It needs a mouth." And so the funny thing is, these grandbabies, they demand a nose and a mouth. "Grandma, your doll is not complete. There's something missing. You need to put those details on." And it's so funny because a lot of these doll patterns don't include them. But when they do, they turn out so super cute. It's so sweet. I love it. Now I need to learn how to do this more often. Back to the hair pattern for this doll. Although I didn't follow it, I would love to use that pattern for my future boy dolls that I plan to make. Because when you look at it, it's very different from a typical just plain hair wig cap. It's got the appearance of a hairline and maybe even bangs. I just love the construction of it. It's very different. It's new to me. I am very much looking forward to trying it in the future. Now, although I didn't follow the pattern for the hair or the bib or the shoes, the parts that I did do for this pattern, I did not find any errors and I did find easy to follow. I'm super happy with the way that it came out. And he is gonna go to my charity of choice. So he's added to my collection and I'm super excited to donate him. My next pattern comes from a blog called Elisa's Crochet, and I love her patterns. I recommend that you check her blog out. She has a plethora of free patterns and they're all so adorable. Now this pattern is the Anna doll, and she also has a matching boy doll to go along with Anna here. I think his name is Eric, I believe. But I will have everything linked down below. Very much like the Gracie doll, when I look at this doll, I think that her head is too small for the size of her body. But Miko says she looks fine. That's normal.
That's proportional.
She says that it's proportional, but I don't see it.
Not everybody needs to have a gigantic head where they're walking around all weird because their head is weighing them down.
I don't know. What do you guys think? I think I have doll dysmorphia. I feel like dolls should all have big heads.
Where they can't stand on their own because their heads are too heavy.
And this is why I have my methods of supporting my floppy doll head syndromes. So I took a picture and I played with it. I fixed her head so that it was bigger. And I thought, when I saw it, immediately I thought, see, now that's normal. Compare the actual with my ideal, and I gotta say the bigger head looks normal to me.
I think you need to get checked out by a crochet doctor or something.
Yeah, doll dysmorphia. For this doll, I did follow Elisa's free pattern on her blog, but her free pattern on her blog does not include the pattern for the scarf or her handbag. I ended up just improvising for both. Now, I've made similar purses like this for other amigurumi patterns, and so I just kind of did my own thing for this and kind of recalled how to do it. And I made the straps for as long that I needed for my doll and her proportions. But for the scarf, when I looked at Elisa's pattern up close, I thought that it looked like a knit stitch. So I went on Google and I searched up crochet stitches that look like knit. And what I stumbled upon was a Tunisian crochet stitch. And I've never done Tunisian crochet, but I looked through the pattern and I thought, oh, that seems easy enough. And I had one Tunisian crochet hook and it happened to work out beautifully. And that's what I ended up doing for this infinity scarf is I did the Tunisian crochet stitch that looks like a knit. I don't even know what it's called. But the one that looks like a knit stitch. So I just worked it back and forth however long that I needed, and I think that it turned out super beautiful and I think it looks great. But if you want to just follow the pattern, you can access her full pattern with the scarf and purse included on her Etsy shop. I found this pattern to be easy to follow and I did not find any errors. As for modifications, I did add one row to her hair buns because when I made it up, it looked a little too short for her hair, so I ended up just making it one row longer and I thought it looked better. Now, needless to say, if I were to make this pattern again, my modification would be to make her head larger. But that's just my personal preference, you know? You can follow the pattern as is and she'd be perfect to normal people. But apparently I am not normal. So for me and my personal preference, I would make her head larger. Now my next doll comes from this book by Marie-Lise Leal. And if you watched last week's episode, I did talk about this book and how I was working out of it. And I am cranking out dolls from this. So far I've done the little baby bee, which is this guy. I've done the Arabella doll here. I did the froggy girl in last week's episode. And I have another one from this book today. And I chose this little angel doll. I chose her because first of all, her big bulbous head, of course. But she's a smaller doll, and I have been enjoying the ragdoll style of dolls where the bottom is like this. And then, on top of that, her hair. Her hair is ginormous for her body. Again, doll dysmorphia. It's a thing, guys. It's a thing. And I'm there, sick with it. But I super love the way that she came out. Oh, another thing is I wanted to try my hand at the beading. So I've never done beading on any of my dolls, and I saw it in Marie-Lise Leal's book with beading on the body, and I just wanted to give it a try. So I love to challenge myself with different doll patterns and designers because whenever I try new things, I feel like my amigurumi and doll skills tend to grow. And I love that. I love learning new things and I love building upon my existing skills and getting better and better. I mean, that's the beauty of doing crafts, right? Is honing our skills, learning new things, and creating just unique things with our own hands. I think that's the fun of it all. For this doll, Marie, she did the hair a little bit differently than what I've seen. This approach to doll hair was new to me. and I really enjoyed it, and now I can add it to my amigurumi hair skill set. I'm excited to try this technique on future dolls, not just amigurumi, but also with my cloth dolls. Because the hair is only stitched here, I did end up having to glue her hair down just under here, just so that it's not flapping in the wind, and it makes it a little bit more secure. I didn't always use hot glues on my dolls, but Llama Mama Kayla has changed my mind about the whole idea of using glue gun. I used to avoid it like the plague. Like, I always thought, I'm gonna sew this, I'm gonna sew that, da 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 da. And then I got to amigurumi dolls and sewing on hair. I was like, oh no, we are not gonna be sewing all of that. Changed my mind. Glue gun for days, best friends forever. Me and my glue gun, glue sticks, best friends. Forget that needle and thread. You're out. She is an angel, by the way. Did I mention I never showed you her back? She's an angel because she's got wings. And for these wings, I double-stranded gold thread together with yellow yarn to give her this little bit of a sparkly detail. And it actually has sequins in the gold thread. Now, I double-stranded that together to give this super fun look, and I love the way that it came out. It adds sparkle and like a glittery look to her wings. And what better to do that on angel wings, right? I also love the yarn choice that I made for her hair. It's nice and thick and adds a lot of texture and gives her so much body in her hair that it makes her ponytails big and ginormous, which I already know I'm a big fan of. So I've been experimenting with a lot of different novelty textured yarns for my doll hairs, and I'm having a blast. Loving it. As I mentioned before, this is the first time that I've used beading on any of my amigurumi dolls. And I just want to say that if you're going to be using tiny little beads like this, it makes this doll not safe for little children. And that includes even just the safety eyes. So if you're going to be adding beading, or safety eyes for that matter, always add little tags if you're gifting it or selling it, having some kind of disclaimer stating that the doll or toy is not suitable for children ages 3 or younger for choking hazard. Just wanted to put that out there. But I really do love the way that it came out. If you're not a big fan of hand sewing, you don't have to do this, because this is a lot of hand sewing. There's a lot of patience. I love texture and I love using different mediums in my dolls, so I just ended up doing it. Even though if I'm not a big fan of sewing, I've gotten used to the idea of sewing more for my amigurumi dolls because I am getting into cloth doll making, and I am looking forward to hand stitching some of them. This pattern is recommended for advanced amigurumi makers, and I believe that is because of the construction of the wings. Now, if you're not familiar with a short row construction or working in the ends of rows, that's something that you're going to have experience with in order to make these wings. But other than that, I believe the rest of the pattern is pretty straightforward and easy to follow. This would be the trickiest bit, is the wings part. But if you really are stuck on the wings and you've tried it and you can't get the grasp of it, you can always opt to make felt wings. You can cut it out of felt and then either glue it on or stitch it on. And even if you do, it's okay. Build your amigurumi skills and come back to this pattern again and give it another try. Don't give up, because your skills they build upon each other and you get better and better. And all of a sudden, when they start building up to a certain level, things start to click. and you get the hang of things and you can start learning new things. So don't give up. Whenever you're trying amigurumi stuff and you're trying different skills and you're just not getting it at that moment, come back to it later on because you'll get it one day. Now, as I mentioned, the wings are the most difficult part of the pattern, and unfortunately, Marie-Lise Leal, she does include a lot of pretty pictures, detailed photos of this doll. However, there are no step-by-step detailed instructions for the construction of the wings, which is unfortunate because it is the most difficult part of the pattern, and for beginners I think that would have been helpful. So that's why I say if you have a difficult time with this part of the pattern, just consider your other options, as I mentioned. So as far as this pattern is concerned, I did not find any errors and I followed the pattern as is and I did not make any modifications. Now, after making Rudy the doll for my charity donation, I needed at least one more boy pattern or doll to donate. And so I came across Pixie the robot. Now, he is from Elisa's Crochet again. Like I mentioned, she's got a ton of patterns. I love probably all of them. I can't say that there was one that I didn't like. I mean, I would say there's about 80% that I'm like, wanna make, yes, 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 yes. You know? I mean, there's just those blogs that it's like, they're after my heart, you know? Elisa's Crochet, great blog to follow. Now, this is where Pixie came from. I love the way that he came out. I super love his face, his digital panel here, and his little mechanical knobs and things. Super cute. Even though that I made this pattern with a boy in mind, this can absolutely appeal to any child of any gender. It's just super cute. Any kid would love this, but I just wanted there to be a little more variety in my donation pack so that at least, you know, boys can have something too. I have this skein of yarn that I bought from Hobby Lobby's clearance and I didn't know what to do with it. It's a marled yarn. It was something that I picked up because I love the non-solid colored yarns, and so I picked it up not knowing what I would use it for. But when this project came along, I thought it was perfect for this project. I used it for the robot tin section. Elisa asks for gray, and I thought that this particular yarn, red gray, reads gray to me, even though if it has a touch of pink. I thought that it looked great, and it gives that middle part of the robot, that galvanized metal look, I think, in my opinion, and so it turned out perfect. I just want to talk about the face. Look at how cheerful it looks. So super cute. The faces of amigurumis, I think, is what brings life to the toy, because once you put it on there, that's when it comes alive, right? That's when its personality comes to play and everything. And I just super love the way that the face and personality shines through his face. This pattern was easy to follow. It's got basic shapes and great for beginners. So they're all round shapes and everything, so great for beginners. However, I did find an error, and that was in the antenna. So Elisa's written pattern, at least on her blog, is missing round 2 in the pattern. So what I ended up doing was I adjusted the pattern so that her instructions for round 3 became my instructions for round 2. And then I used her instructions for round 4 as my instructions for rounds 3 and 4. Other than improvising for the error, I did no other modifications. I love the way that my Pixie robot came out, and he too is going to be added to my donation pile. I look forward to donating my loot to my local charity, and I hope to do it soon before the holidays. I feel like the holidays should be a happy and cheerful time, and so I'm hoping that my donations will help bridge that gap. My next pattern is by a crafty concept, and I made the Gracie doll, right? But I didn't mention that the Gracie doll actually comes in two other variations. The first one is the unicorn rag doll, and then there's another one called Grayson, the rag doll, who is the boy version of Gracie. Isn't that cute? So after I made Gracie, I absolutely loved and enjoyed working on that pattern that I just had to make another variation. And so I chose to work on the unicorn. And rest assured that I plan on making Grayson one day. But I think what I'm going to try and do is maybe try and do the yarn over single crochet stitch to see if that helps to maybe make his head a little bit larger, because I'm not sure what's going on with my little miniature head with that pattern. But here's my unicorn doll, and I absolutely just adore how she came out. She is looking so super cute, and I love the fun colors. Funny thing is, I compared my unicorn doll to my Gracie doll, and I noticed that my unicorn doll head is larger than my Gracie doll. So I'm not sure what's going on. I feel like it's the same exact pattern, just the color changes are different. I've used the same yarns in both the Gracie and the unicorn dolls. It may be the color changes, maybe. I don't know, just something to think about. For her mane, I used a striping yarn. I believe this is Karen Simply Soft in the colorway Times Square, and it's a striping yarn. But I just cut up the yarn to the different colored sections, and I used that for my unicorn mane. Instead of using multiple skeins of yarns, I just used one striping, cut the different sections, and ended up doing that. So, you know, something to think about. But I love the color choices that I chose for this doll. I think it came out super, super cute. Very much like the Gracie doll, I found it easy to follow, no errors, and I did not make any modifications to this doll. Now, for the Gracie and the unicorn dolls, both of their dresses are made exactly the same, and they are removable. I love whenever my dolls' clothing are interactive and removable. So there is a little bit of sewing involved. But another option, instead of sewing on buttons, you can also add on those plastic snaps, but you do need to have tools and special supplies in order to do that. And that is something that I have on my wish list that I want to end up incorporating in the future. But for now, I've been hand sewing on these buttons, and I think they're super sweet and adorable. If you saw last week's video, you'll know that I am a big fan of Irina Moilova of Crochet Confetti, and I had to experiment by making another one of her dolls. Now, this doll pattern you would have seen from last week, except the difference is she is much larger. For this doll, I used my more traditional yarn and hook sizes. I used I Love This Cotton, which is a 4-weight cotton yarn, and my 3.5mm E hook. And that's typically what I love to use for my amigurumi dolls. But last week's dolls that I showed you, I used a thinner DK weight yarn along with a 2.75 C hook. And I just wanted to compare. I wanted to make something with my normal yarn and my normal hook and see what the comparison was. And just by herself, I think she's super adorable. She's much larger than the smaller counterpart, but I super love the way that she came out. Still super cute no matter which size yarn, but I do have my preference. If I were to put the two dolls side by side, The one with the 3-weight DK yarn and the one with the 4-weight worsted weight yarn. The difference in size is 3 inches. The pink one from last week measures at 10 inches, and the red doll from this week measures at 13 inches. Both turned out very beautiful, just the same. Last week's pink fairy, I attached the wings directly onto the back. The wings are stuffed and the leggings are striped. But today's red fairy, I made with removable wings with crushed ribbon. The wings are flat and unstuffed, and for the legs, I used a marled yarn for visual texture and contrast against the solid red colored yarn. If I were to choose between the two dolls side by side, I would recommend, just because of all the details, I prefer the smaller yarn for the crochet confetti dolls. I feel like the stitches are tighter and more defined, and therefore the details show up much better. But if I had to stick to this weight yarn and my favorite hook size, I'd love her just the same. She's super, super adorable, lovable, and super cute. I love crochet confetti. Did I mention that? Last week, I forgot to mention the Princess Leia hairdo. I did end up gluing because, as I mentioned before, I used to hand stitch these type of details down. Not anymore. The hair, for the doll hairs, lots of gluing going on. Big fan. Her Princess Leia hair is not going anywhere. It's stuck on there, and it's so super quick. It's such a game changer when it comes to amigurumi hair. Like I said, best friends. Just like last week's pattern, she too has button arm joints, and like I said in last week's video, this was the most difficult part of the construction of the doll. It's something that I have to get used to and learn and figure out how to make it so that I'm a little more comfortable with it. But for now, I still find it challenging. But it is a detail that I do love. I love that button look of it. For this doll, I think I put it a little too high, so she looks like she's got shrugged shoulders. I wish that I had done it a little bit lower, but again, I was struggling with just the addition of the button that this is as good as it's gonna get. And like last week's video and doll, I pretty much did my own thing with the arms. There's a little bit of shaping that Irina does for her pattern, but I just made the arms the same through and through, and I didn't stuff it. It's unstuffed and it's flat up here, especially because you're going to be sewing through the shoulder part. So I did not find any errors in this pattern, and I super love the way that she came out. Thank you so much for joining us this week. You know, last week I had mentioned that I probably have to break these videos up into 2 parts, but apparently I still have more dolls and toys to show you. So in next week's episode, before it gets too close to Halloween, I'm gonna have a Halloween episode where I show you all of my projects that I've been working on still within the past 3 months, but geared towards Halloween. It's either Halloween themed or for the purpose of Halloween, trick-or-treaters to be exact. So I hope that you will stick around for that episode. And then even after I'm done with the Halloween themed stuff, I still have dolls and toys to talk about still. So there might be a 4th part to this series. I mean, there's still gonna be sequential episodes as far as podcast episodes, but they are interrelated in that there are still dolls that I'm talking about from 3 months. I hope that you're not bored, and I hope that you'll stick around and join us. Thank you for watching. We really appreciate all your love and support. Thank you, and I hope that you will comment down below, tell me hi, introduce yourself, let me know where you're from in the world. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Now, I will say it may be because of her chunky scarf. You know what? Let me take off her scarf and see. what I think. Yeah, no. Nope.
That was the problem.
I still think her head is super tiny.